how do you feel about being in the film?
I think people are going to look at this and they're going to be like, that Jacob guy is an asshole. Jacob. Are we allowed to swear in this?
Hi, I'm Jeremy. I'm a dork living in Portland, Oregon who spent too many years listening to podcasts and not doing anything creative. This is my attempt to rectify that, to create and contribute something where I talk to people about their cultural obsessions and try to give some recommendations of my own. Welcome to Giving the Mic to the Wrong Person. Also, yeah, if you ever, for anybody, yeah, if you ever have heard an episode and hear of any of the last ones and you hear a little jingling in the background, that's because there's a cat wandering around in the background, occasionally acknowledged by us on the mic and sometimes not.
Yeah. I like cats.
Yeah.
There should be a podcast about cats.
I bet there aren't any.
Yeah, I'm trying to make one, but I need more news stories to have one because I'm going to do a.
You know what I would do?
What's that?
Make up news stories.
That requires writing.
Cat is hero. And then that basically writes itself.
They have to be plausible.
Well, it depends on the
cat laughs as someone dies is like more likely. Oh, here's a fun one. This is real wacky. Cat killer gets 16 years for torturing, hunting, killing 21 cats in Cambrian Park.
That guy should be shot.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of cats. I'm not a big fan of people who murder cats.
Well, look, you wanted cat news. I don't know what the fuck you want from me.
No, I wanted more.
I did, sir. I did not ask for cat news.
Well, you got it. Wow, this guy.
We should sign up for Cat Facts.
You got in your face, dude.
Facts.cat.
In your fucking face.
Yeah, this is like if Kiss had their own branded cat news thing. You got the best. Here comes Kiss Cat Facts.
All right.
Hey, they got. Okay, this is. I can't. My voice is going to be pitched wrong, but I just wanted to start my own cat news service. I have a strong feeling for that. And
Are you doing Paul Stanley or the other one?
No, I can't do Gene. Gene is too
Gene's like, isn't he like?
Yeah.
Well, we were just the best rock and roll band that ever happened, and.
Or is he that? Or is that guy from that TV show?
Gene sounds like if Bernie Sanders actually did this for women.
Wait, are we talking about Gene Simmons?
Detroit is Rock City, and we have to get together and make it Rock City again.
I am
available on the Kiss.com
never going to forgive that dude because I read one of his books. And
Gene Simmons?
Yeah.
He's such a piece of shit.
Well, not just that, though, but he's like, if you think about it, you spend 8 hours sleeping every day. So you only have so much time in this life. You spend half of your life asleep. I'm like, no, you don't. That's not how that works. That's not how math works.
8
no.
24 is
no.
No.
And who fucking sleeps 8 hours a night?
But he was a reality TV guy for a while there. I just remember that.
He's such a piece of
So
shit.
you're saying
total shit.
Future president?
Oh.
No, that's not.
Yep.
I think Kid Rock and Ted Nugent are the ones who they're going to aim for that first.
The Nuge Rock ticket.
Oh, fucking Christ.
And you are listening to Giving the Mic to the Wrong Person. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
I am Jeremy. I want to welcome you once again to our scenic, sunny Portland basement apartment studios, where I've gathered another coterie of friends and guests here to start with a topic, and then we quickly digress or discourse off into something else, and hopefully keep it interesting. I want to let my guests introduce themselves.
I'm Natasha, resident fangirl and Cat Facts lover.
I'm Garrett, on-air personality and resident good boy.
I'm Kevin Smith, and I'm here to talk about why Spider-Man Homecoming made me cry.
Thank you for joining us, Kevin. It's great to see you here. It's rare that we have such a special guest this early in a podcast.
Those are some form-fitting jean shorts, Kevin.
Hold on, I have to smoke some more weed.
Don't we all?
On mic. Yeah, no, you can't just smoke it. You have to smoke it on mic.
I do have my vape with me if you want the sound effect.
No, I'm Jacob Mercy. I'm a comic book person. I do various odd jobs for people, and I work for a guy named David Chelsea part of the time. He makes a bunch of comics. He's Eisner nominated, and I'm mostly talking about him so I don't have to talk about myself.
That always works.
Yeah, well, I'm not rich and famous yet, so.
None of us are.
Yeah.
We can just cut out that intro and,
Yeah.
So, yeah, everybody on Twitter, apparently I follow lots of people that are really fucking excited about female Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Representation matters, and for some people, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Well, it's her turn, so.
Right. I really do wish they would have cast. I don't know if she could have pulled off the dramatic, but I do, just for pure personality, I wish they would have cast Sue Perkins.
You know who I think they should have cast?
What's that?
A little lady, you might have heard about her. She's the rightful president of the United States, Hillary Rodham Clinton.
Oh.
She has prior acting experience because she was on Broad City.
That's true. And she's been on SNL quite a few times.
I don't really count that.
You don't, yeah.
That's more like being on there.
I guess, yeah.
When your person is yourself.
No, you're reading off of a cue card, and it's,
Yeah, it doesn't really count.
Even McCain. Well, I'll say both McCain and Al Gore were funny on there too, and the late Senator Paul Tsongas.
Yeah.
Wait, was Tsongas? No, Tsongas was on. Paul Simon was on there. I don't think Tsongas was, because I remember there was an episode in late 80s where at some point someone came up with the idea where we're gonna have Senator Paul Simon as the guest and musical guest Paul Simon.
This is very embarrassing, and I was sure that they meant me.
I just assumed they wanted me, Paul Simon, the senator.
Well, it's a comedy show, and it's a music show, so it's got to be me. I mean, who else is it?
And we'll have, in the opening monologue, is going to be the two of them awkwardly exchanging jokes about how their names were the same.
Do you guys remember that one SNL bit where Hillary was playing like tough as nails bartender?
Rough night? Yeah, you could say that. Whew. Hi, I'm Hillary Rodham Clinton. Hey, great name. I'm Val.
Oh, yeah.
And giving advice to Hillary Clinton?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? That was amazing.
Was this in the last year or something?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's when Kate played her.
Kate McKinnon. No, the only I have...
Which I thought was bullshit because they didn't make out.
They should have. Yeah. That would have been the real winner there.
Yeah, that would have been very empowering.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, representation matters.
Yeah.
Right. Well, no, just as they say on the pilot of Riverdale, just cheap ratings grabs like that just don't work anymore. They see right through them.
Well, that's bullshit though, because they had Sean Spicer and Trump make out.
Oh yeah. Melissa McCarthy and...
I know about this because my boss insists.
Oh, are you guys talking about Saturday Night Live?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my
God,
boss
it's
insists.
funnier than ever.
Fuck off.
Get on that.
My boss insists about telling me about he is the quintessential liberal, New York, literally reads the New York Times at lunch. Not the New York Times, the New Yorker at lunch.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, good, that David Brooks always gives me a chuckle," and he's always talking about SNL skits he thinks are funny, and they never are, and it's just
probably likes John Oliver and.
I don't think he has HBO, but I'm sure he was definitely excited about the drum thing for a while. So.
Yeah.
Well, I think the thing about John Oliver is that the kicker is that it's like the show does. It's almost like the two different aims. Like the actual, the deep dive journalistic stuff they do is excellent because they'll go in and they have an entire week to do kind of a more serious piece.
Yeah.
And then
that's what it's not funny. It's not a funny show. I mean, fine, they do good work, but I don't know when people go, I love John Oliver, he's so hilarious. He's like, no, he's not.
He's got 16-year-old interns writing his jokes and putting up
Jeremy,
Photoshop shit.
I know what you're doing. Stop it. Stop it now.
That is, I guess that's a suck. But I mean, I like it when they go into stuff there and kind of they point out like DeVitra, the dialysis business, which just set up another business in Portland.
DeVita,
yeah, DeVita.
Because you need across the street from the Taco Bell, you need your dialysis center.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
I think sometimes. Well, actually, I think technically you would because of the just for access for people. But
true.
Well, I think a lot of that just comes down to how our entertainment has been breaking down in a lot of ways. So there's a lot of boundaries where things were pretty clearly established as to, okay, you have this kind of show that does this kind of thing, and we've pretty much gotten away with that. Because to a certain extent, even The Daily Show and John Oliver's piece are more or less just modern versions of Johnny Carson.
Mm-hmm.
You got your topical humor, you've got your guest, you've got your monologue, and basically everything's been fractionated and broken up. So
and kind of like my problem with it, and I got shit for years dogging on Jon Stewart a little bit, even though I think he's pretty funny. It's a view from nowhere. It's like what perspective does he have? He's vaguely on the left.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but I don't know what he stands for. You know what I mean? And it's like, what are they really doing?
He stands for a return for sanity, sir.
Yeah, sanity.
Well, I think that gets into it. Part of the topic of the show, for as much as there is one, is because I was thinking about due to recent like social media and how healthy those are, social media conversations about where we are just now for the first time in a very long time, like finally shattering and teasing apart the various that left and liberal no longer are synonymous, but not everybody we know. I think not everybody we know personally or even very well, it's kind of has made that break or has made that distinction. So at one point, it's a thing. If you can't, like say, handling criticism, it just seems like we're on. The only real sane, balanced, moderate people in the room they're the ones that are under attack without just because it's like. Under attack from everybody, they just see, just loudmouth criticism online, which is always the healthiest way to handle political talk, and not really able to kind of separate the two. And so they kind of, anytime you directly attack somebody's point of, position, they just re-cement it and double it down.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think my thing is.
You think we really need to take a leaf out of Lacey Green's book?
Which book?
The one where, TERFs are people too, and we really need to hear both sides. Have you been following this?
No.
It's like a whole
Trans-exclusionary feminist?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Feminist?
think it sounds like I'm probably much more into idiots arguing on YouTube than anybody else here, but like there's this big back and forth because
that's why you're here.
She's like a sex educator, and she said, "Oh, well, I don't know about this whole feminist, leftist, SJW agenda," and basically everybody lost their fucking minds, and it turned into this huge fiasco. And she's, I think, actually capable of making some nuanced arguments, in as much as that she is having conversations with some people who don't necessarily recognize the idea that there are more than two genders.
Yeah.
And she needs to have a language to communicate with those people. But at the same time, she's also saying a bunch of really sort of sloppy, not so woke things.
Yeah.
And so she's getting basically piled on super hard, and the Gamergate right types are very excited about it because it's an opportunity to say, oh, this person has seen the light and is no longer doing this. But as near as I can tell, everybody's just looking for an excuse to scream at each other.
Pretty much. I think
that's the way it feels.
That's the way it feels. Yeah, they had a really good Best of the Left recently on the issues of trans versus TERFs, and I think that I recommend that highly if you want to listen to that. Basically, that a lot of it is, there's a lot of actual misogyny within that kind of TERF ideals too, because they don't like femme presenting and women and also trans women.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess, one of the arguments I hear is that it's men occupying female spaces.
No. Right? I mean...
Wait, say this again. Are you talking about what TERFs believe?
Yeah, TERFs believe that the men are occupying female spaces when, obviously...
Well, how do y'all feel about that? That criticism.
I'm actually in favor of that, so I might be in the minority.
Men occupying female spaces?
Yeah, got to colonize.
Yeah, sure.
Well, I think we need to make space for men to express themselves.
Yeah.
And I think that's...
I mean, it's about time.
Yeah. We can't... How can you have any post-colonial thought if you don't have any colonialism to start with?
Well, I'm just asking, why aren't there any men's clubs?
Yeah.
Think about it.
Yeah. Why are there no men-only events?
Why isn't there a man's Oprah? You know what I mean?
Why isn't there a men's warehouse?
Why isn't there?
Oh, there was. It closed down. Sorry.
Oh, shit.
See, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, well, there
used to be a place for men in this world.
I'm a big advocate...
The man's warehouse.
...of the idea that I'm, really dumb, and I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about.
I'm right there in your camp.
And, one of my best friends is genderqueer, and I think I've probably been a little more woke than a lot of people on this issue just because, I've known her for so long. But at the same time, it's an enormously complicated topic that I don't understand that well. And I wouldn't presume to speak to. But it feel like if I make that argument with some people, they're like, no, you have to have a side. This is Marvel's Civil War. Pick a side. You're either with Iron Man, who is 100% turfy, or you're with Captain America, who wants to basically require bathrooms to not only be open to everybody, but actually have glass walls. So fuck you. And I'm just like, I'm probably on the SJW side. I'm not sure I'm the best representative to articulate a coherent argument for everything that includes. And there's probably some stuff over there that I don't agree with. But, I just want to smoke weed and play video games, okay?
Same.
And I want to smoke weed.
Yeah.
And I don't smoke, but video games, yes. I blow
so
way too much time.
Me and Jeremy sort of come together like a tiny
one person.
Middle-aged.
It's like Voltron.
Well, and that's just pathetic because we all know that video games are absolutely offensive and sexist. So you're part of the problem.
Oh, I'm
Have
part
you
of the
not
problem.
listened to Anita Sarkeesian? I'm disgusted by both of you right now.
I know. As a woman, I should know this, but no.
Wait, do you not know? Do you actually not know?
No, I actually know. I actually know.
Just checking.
I even know that one.
Yeah, we talked about Gamergate a few episodes ago.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's another one. Brianna Wu, is she part of that Gamergate?
No boy.
She got pulled into it. Yeah.
Brianna Wu is a extremely.
I don't know what her shtick is, but
her shtick is that she's now running for Congress.
Oh,
hell yeah.
God, what part of I can't remember what area of Massachusetts, but she's challenging running for Congress. The problem is the kicker is that she is one that wants to bring in more, at least to my very limited understanding, wants to bring in more emphasis on emphasis on on tech companies.
Oh yeah, she's one of those. She's at the Silicon Valley.
Oh, innovation,
disease.
sure, I love it.
Yeah.
It's my favorite thing. Just say that word, my mind goes blank, and I'm ready to obey.
It's called disruption.
Disruption.
Hell
also
yeah.
that.
We need an app for that.
Yeah.
You said it, my mind turned off, and I'm ready to follow whatever you say, sir.
I'm ready for my Series A funding.
I've got a thing, it's called Taco Bro. And it makes tacos for you.
Oh, like the Juicera, but it's like
out
tacos?
of pouches that you buy proprietarily from us.
Can I connect to it with an app?
Fuck yeah, you can,
Hell
dude.
yeah.
When you're on your way home in your Tesla automobile, you can pick what taco you want for the evening.
In the Internet of Things, we will have tacos.
Oh, man. It's going to be so good. Because tacos are fucking hard to make, y'all.
Yeah, but, I mean, as far as the whole left-liberal divide goes, that's another area where I feel like you have a lot of people screaming at each other who may not necessarily have the strongest grasp of what the actual topics are. And I mean, I find it really frustrating, getting back to my theory of being a dumb idiot, which is I've read Manufacturing Consent by Noam Chomsky. I've listened to a bunch of his lectures. I'm not sure how much of Manufacturing Consent I remember, and I feel like
you at least had the exposure to it.
Yeah, but I feel like in order to have a coherent conversation about it, I would need to reread it. I would need to take notes. And we have all of these enormously complicated topics about not just about gender, but about, the economy and about healthcare and about essentially about the whole world. And we're trying to figure out what to do next. And in some cases, there's, I think, some fairly clear arguments to be made that what we're doing right now isn't working because, for one thing, we've had a fairly spectacular failure in the election, but on the other hand, I'm not convinced that everybody in this conversation is A, arguing in good faith, and B, arguing coherently.
Right.
I think that's very true.
And so the problem becomes, I think it's good for people to be more political, but at the same time, how do you be political in a intelligent, coherent way when essentially there are people who do this full time and are still idiots who get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to write editorials for the New York Times or the Washington Post.
Yeah, from the ivory towers, basically. I mean, I personally don't like the idea that it requires a huge knowledge of theory and intelligentsia and academia to be able to understand some of these basic
That's
concepts.
my problem with, broadly speaking, the left is hey, what are we going to do, you guys? Oh, we're going to read this fucking stack of books. And it's yo guys, nothing was ever changed by not having like moral conviction, and that really bothers me. That it's like we have to have the right theoretical approach to things before we can just try to do things that we're committed to.
Yeah.
Like we know what we're committed to. We're committed to radical egalitarianism, and we know ways we can go to get there. So why don't we do that rather than go, let's read this fucking stack of books? I'm so tired of it.
Yeah.
Well, I think the complication though is that that for the longest time, a lot of because of, and we've talked about this before, everybody was so depoliticized, and kind of civic engagement and just kind of political thought was so very reduced for the longest time that nobody really did the reading. And it was because so you detached any sort of like political thoughts or from how there was no substance. It all became very like tangible, like like kind of like David Brooks level, cultural. Politics as culture, class as culture, and that's it. And I think it's almost a thing of like a lot of people got activated, but for me personally, I've been reading a lot more. But it's almost like how do you? It's like you can't exactly shove 4 years of undergrad reading, nor really should you, in the 7 or 8 months it's been.
And Jeremy, I just want to say that you're that kind of person. Like you are a bookish person,
right?
And it's like, look, I've read a fair chunk, but my point is that like, please don't start the conversation by saying, well, let's get our marks all set out, and then let's go on to the Frankfurt School, and let's go. You know what I mean? It's like
leftist gatekeeping, basically.
Well, I think there academic gatekeeping. I think it's.
Yeah. I don't. It's not a. I don't think it's like. I don't think it's like I don't think it's like phony. I think it's sincere. I just think it's wrong. That we have moral convictions we can go for, and we don't need an intellectual wading pool to start in and before we dive in. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty easy to understand. Like the poor people are getting fucked. How do we help them? You know what I mean?
Right. I'm not sure I agree with that. I definitely agree with the idea that poor people are getting fucked, and I think you can make a convincing argument for that in less than half an hour. But as far as how to help them, I think that's an enormously complicated question, and part of the history of the last 20 or 30 years is a history of us, in some cases, in some states, finding, reasonably clever ways to help people that fail.
Yeah.
So, like, what are you talking about?
I'm talking about things where... Well, I mean, one classic example is we have this idea of, what we'll do is we'll set up, temporary assistance for needy families. Mm-hmm. Or, a lot of the whole neoliberal agenda of the 90s was, let's do this to help people and save money at the same time. Mm-hmm. And so you had some ideas, and you had some ideas that sounded good in theory, but when put into practice would absolutely collapse. And I think part of the problem is, everybody talks about Econ 101, but the problem is there's still class after class after class of econ where common sense and reasonable assumptions are just so frequently dramatically wrong, and you can go into something with the best of intentions and have dramatically terrible results.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And
I think part of I think at some point this is almost much.
I think though that we're talking about a little bit something different. I'm talking about an attitude from the left about how to progress. And I think that the left doesn't make progress because it's like, hey, well, let's read some more. And we've read enough is the point I'm trying to make. And even people like me who have not read, I don't know Adorno or Horkheimer or Lukács, or I don't even know if I'm saying that name right.
Lukács,
I'm serious. I don't know if I'm saying that name right. Yeah. But the point is that, like, We've read a fuck enough. Like, it's time to start doing something. We know what we're committed to.
Yeah.
The only kicker is that at some point is how do you build a sense of analysis to figure out that so you don't just fall into the trap of action bias where we know we have to do something, but at some point how do you decide? How do you build an analysis into figuring out what's the problem and what to do to rectify it? I think there's a little bit of theory. Well, first, it's a dangerous thing, I think, as the line goes, but it's also extremely helpful. But I think slightly. I think this is a slightly separated topic, because I think what I was more interested in is, how do you handle the process of radicalization of either, from I guess from your own, we can maybe even start from our own personal, our own personal experiences of getting activated or triggered, or I'm not going to say getting woke, because there's a lot of other things in there that are not exactly helpful. But you get the thing. It's kind of like, at what point how did the slow epiphany happen? And as a part of that, sharing that with others, of moving them on, of trying to get more people on there, as opposed to, because I think thanks to the internet and human wiring, because again, social media networks are not built for communication; they're built to have us hang around long enough so that we can watch more adverts.
Pretty much.
How do you connect your own kind of personal, journey of figuring, hey, shit needs to change, and impart that to others who have have the same kind of an empathic or emotional vector,
okay,
but who ain't there yet, who are still trying to hold on to the old model and trying to defend an older model. For better or for worse.
When you say older model, are you talking about, broadly speaking, neoliberalism, or are you talking about, what do you mean by that? Because
I think the different hanging on to the confusing. Again, part of it. Again, this is where some of the reading comes in, because I think for the longest, for decades, lefty and liberal and even for a lot of people, centrist and establishment and left, were all kind of and almost as long as it's anything that wasn't branded as conservative was in this morass. And now that things are kind of starting to tease apart again, where you're actually again, like I said, we're in a moment where social media especially is kind of showing that there are different camps, and how do you how do you articulate the difference, as well as without necessarily pissing people off and getting more people over the camp, I guess. How do you radicalize others, I guess?
That's a very good question. There? I mean, speaking from my own experience, as I used to be a LaVeyan Satanist, libertarian, objectivist, back in the day, probably as of a couple of years ago even, I went from that to radicalization within 6 to 8 months, like most people I know. We are all suddenly realizing that the joke isn't funny anymore. You can't tell apart people. Well, previously you couldn't tell apart people based on their political party, because you could tell that neither of them had a true ideology that meant anything. I mean, Republicans wanted to kill poor people, and Democrats wanted to make Silicon Valley the king of the universe. So, there was just not anything there. So a lot of people lost interest in the political system and thought of it as sort of this unintelligible machine that just ran on campaign money and people's lives, and nobody wanted to have any part of it. But now that we realize that, you can do political change even just by being a troll on the internet, then, everybody's welcome to make a difference.
Yeah, I think the real solution is that we really need to do a lot more online polling, by which I mean not just doing polling online, but making people take online polls and quizzes. I would strongly recommend areyoualibertarian.com. I think that really helped me to figure out where I stand. And that's where real progress is made.
Was that .com or .biz?
Actually, I think it's .cland.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
I'm a real fan of this Win the Future party that's cropped up, because I love nothing more than .com billionaires who know what the mainstream of America is about.
Oh, yeah. WTF. It's just so funny.
Pow, I just shit my pants. And using Zynga billions to fund a that's the thing, is because one of the guys founded fucking Zynga, which means it's Farmville money.
Okay.
Well, I guess that is the best use of that money, right?
Well, we need to have a strong farm program if we're going to build a new future, so I think he might be the right guy.
Take all that farm bill energy.
Excuse me, but he's very successful.
And put it into actual farming. We're going to build robots, and they'll be powered by people playing Farmville.
Yeah.
That's my new app.
I think there's an interesting distinction to be made, though, between people who are political and people who are apolitical, insofar as I think people are apolitical for a lot of different reasons. Like you said, I mean, there was a certain strain of nihilism, which is there's this large amorphous machine and there's not really anything to be done about it. Or, you know, if there is something to be done about it, you know, it's kind of working. It's not worth the effort. You know, I've got my MTV and why bother?
You're talking about the status quo when you say it's kind of working?
Yeah. Okay. And, you know, after 2008, I think it got a lot harder for people.
Right. Well, it's sort of folded into a tribalism is what the only thing I can analyze it as.
And it's been that way for a long time.
But as far as activation goes, you know, I think the internet has actually been enormously helpful for that. I mean, I have spent a long time on my own where I was like, okay, I'm sympathetic to Israel, but I'm not necessarily in favor of the current strain of Zionism, which is heavily influenced by American neoconservative thought.
Exactly.
Right.
And the fact that they casually refer to, you know, incursions as quote unquote mowing the lawn. And there's a shitload of things like that as far as, you know, double tapping with drone strikes and, you know, the disastrous war in Iraq and all of these things where I felt very isolated because people would say, you know, well, we had to go in. Well, we shouldn't have gone in, but now that they're where we have to stay there.
Right.
And people were making excuses. And I felt like even here in Portland, I mean, I almost got into a fight with somebody once because he was wearing a T-shirt that said, Bill Clinton for First Lady.
Oh my God.
And I was like, hey man, that's kind of a funny shirt. And he's like, thanks. I can't imagine anybody not voting for Hillary Clinton. And I'm like, well, and I wasn't even talking about myself at the time. I was just like, you know, I'm from Arizona. I know lots of people who, you know, are going to probably vote third party or something. He's like, no. And I'm like, Jesus, dude, like I'm at a party. I'm just trying to chat. Like, I mean, I was just acknowledging the existence of other, you know, political beliefs. You need to slow your roll, fam.
I've had friends almost come to blows over the same terms because I feel like a lot of that, you know, Yas Queen shit that went on with Hillary, like really, really infected women that wanted the kind of women that are like, we should have more women billionaires, you know, like.
Right, lean in feminism.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
make the what's the joke? Make the camp guards female.
Right.
Yes.
Why aren't there more? Why aren't there more women guards at the camps?
Guantanamo or whatever.
Well, I think there's something really powerful to just know that I'm not alone. And to be honest, I mean, I probably am a little bit more libertarian than a lot of people who, you know, listen to Street Fight or, you know, anything. But at the same token, I'm recognizing that we do need to make some substantive changes here and that the current system does need to be changed, you know, even if it's tedious and painful.
Right. And I think that also that like so right now the big banner issue on the left is, you know, Medicare for all or single payer. And it's like, that's a perfectly good way to try to bridge two groups of people together. And it's like, because I think a lot on the left, you have, you know, sort of like the Leninist stripe of like violent revolution and overthrow. And I'm just too big a coward for that. So I don't have a problem with incrementalism. The problem I have with especially people that advocate incrementalism is it's very much like not market critical. And that's what I want. I want politicians that are critical of capitalism. That they don't need to say it shouldn't exist, but they need to say like, we need a strong criticism of this cultural activity called capitalism. And we don't have that in a left, the broad left active politically in government right now.
People are afraid to talk about that. I mean, because the whole structure is based on it. So yeah, from the viewpoint of being like, you know, anarchist, but then you talk about like anarcho-capitalism where you've had our libertarian strains that I've dabbled in. You know, people's ideas that, you know, if only the market were free, we'd be free to make the decisions that we want. And
yeah,
you know,
if you want to be a part of the goddamn market.
Hey man, have you ever done pure strain libertarianism before?
Yeah. I don't mind, you know, thalidomide or, you know...
Well, I'm going to make an extremely problematic analogy here, which is I think there's this persistent notion that there are only two economies.
Yeah.
Right.
And like so you either have to be purely capitalist or purely,
but Stalinist or something.
100% socialism,
planned economy,
top-down
right? Yeah.
command economy, and like that's and both sides. Woohoo! Are making arguments. You have all of these people who are like, I think that these Chapo boys are being very naive because maybe they should try doing their podcast in one of Stalin's death camps. And
Try the gulag with you.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is at some point it's like. I mean, it's good. Christ, it's like in the real world. In the real world, it should, more than likely, we'll frame it like that. More than likely, it's all flavors of mixed economy anyway. It's just a matter of how do you mix it.
Well, there's a lot of scuttlebutt going around about Keynes. About Keynes had this thing like what our grandchildren can expect. He wrote this essay a long time ago, and he said, we're probably going to be working 15 hours a week because the economy will have become so productive, and we, our problem will be how do we deal with all this leisure time that we have? And it's like, you know what? That sounds fine to me. Like I don't need it to be a pure Marxist socialism. Like I can live with a 15-hour work week, but there's no criticism in active government right now that would lead to that, and that's my problem.
Well, I mean, honestly, if you want to talk about incrementalism, let's go back 50 years and have a 90% tax rate for the top bracket, and drop the difference in CEO pay from a couple hundred to maybe 3 to 1.
Yeah,
and
and you're rich enough. You know what I mean?
Bring back the idea of taking apart monopolies and shit like that.
Yeah.
All right, and on that note, we'll take a quick break and be right back.
I'm watching Firefly, by the way, and I've never watched it before.
It's very rapey.
Yeah.
Is it
just
rapey?
100%. Think about it. Like the ship is a woman, and they just jump into her all the time. That's fucked up.
Yeah.
No wonder I had a hard on the whole time I was.
It's kind of ableist too. I think River is definitely on the spectrum.
Yeah.
You guys, I'm freaking out.
There's an amazing essay that Sony wrote years and years ago about this.
Is it along the lines that you guys are?
Well, except it wasn't a bit, so...
Dude, I don't...
It wasn't a bit?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
No, the thing is,
I really
I have
read
read
that
so much discourse.
Firefly rape. There's no way this can go wrong.
Oh, yeah. Well, so what happened was that he had planned out eventually that Inara would have this... be sexually assaulted by like a group of men, I think, and like that was going to be like one of the plot points of the show. And yeah, Whedon is not the best. And yeah, I've read so much of the fucking discourse on him. It's not even funny.
Well, I don't know that much about him, to be honest with you.
Well, he got lauded as being the most feminist of male writers because of the fact that he made Buffy.
The first scene opens in a war with Mal and Zoe. Zoe runs around calling Mal sir and taking orders off him. I roll my eyes. Not a good start.
Yeah, because the female POC is following the white dude.
What? No. Let's see. The next scene is set in the present. Mal, Jane, and Zoe are floating about in space. They come into some danger. Mal gets all panicky. Zoe says, "This ship's been derelict for months. Why would they?" Mal replies in Chinese, "Shut up." So in the very second scene of the very first episode, an episode written and directed by the great feminist Joss, a white man tells a black woman to shut up for no apparent reason, and she does shut up, and she continues to call him sir, and she takes his orders, even when they're dumb orders for the rest of the series. Here's the best part. The next scene, we meet Kaylee, the ship's mechanic. Looky, feminist empowerment. In this scene, Mal and Jane are stowing away the cargo they just stole. Kaylee is chatting to them happily. Jane asks Mal to get Kaylee to stop being so cheerful. Mal replies, "Sometimes you just want to duct tape her mouth and dump her in the hold for a month." Yes, that's an exact quote. Sometimes you just want to duct tape her mouth and dump her in the hold for a month. Kaylee responds by grinning and giving Mal a kiss on the cheek and saying, "I love my captain." What the fuck is this feminist man trying to say about women here? A black woman calling a white man sir. A white male captain abuses and silences a female crew with no consequences. The women are happy to be abused. They enjoy it.
Yeah, they
What
love
does this say
being
about women?
insulted on the
Josh,
show.
what does this say about you? Do you tell your wife to shut up? Do you threaten to duct tape her mouth, lock her in the bedroom? Is this funny to you, Josh? Because it's sure fucking funny to me.
I love this. Please send this to me.
Rules, yeah.
Oh my God.
What's your?
It's beautiful. It's especially beautiful because my fiance watches it, like
Yeah.
Firefly in the background, every fucking day. Like
Wow.
I think he's seen that series over and over again. And I can't actually watch the movie because like I just can't do it. I can't. I don't know if you know.
You've never seen it?
Serenity?
That's all I've seen.
I've
I
only
have
seen
it
the
until
first
recently.
45 minutes and then I just no.
What's your beef with it?
I have never seen the film.
I just
nor
can't
the
watch.
series.
I can't watch Wash Die.
Oh yeah.
Leaf on a Wind. That shit. No, I can't. I can't watch it. I just can't.
He is a charming character.
I love Alan Siddick.
Very phallic.
Wash is phallic?
No,
No, the death scene is phallic.
Yes, it is very phallic.
Typical Joss Whedon.
Yeah.
What's your
Staking it, man.
Can't wait to
what's your
fuck chest
internet
cavity.
phone number?
Oh, my internet phone number.
Are you on the Twitter?
I am on the Twitter. I'm at Ashes for Foxes. It's kind of a dumb name.
What's it called?
Ashes for Foxes.
That's a band.
I know, it's a metal band.
Okay.
Waiting to happen.
Okay, I had to figure out how to add people.
Garrett, I think the follow-up thing, do you want to go into your own personal... Would you like to tell us about your own journey?
Now, would you like to tell us? Come up here on the stage and tell us how you got saved, boy.
Well, I'm glad you guys asked. I don't really know, but I did flirt with a lot of political ideologies in my early 20s. I was definitely a solid neoliberal, believed that the way to make the world better was economic progress. All the people in Iraq or sub-Saharan Africa or what have you, all that they needed was to have industry in their lives.
Yeah.
Have economic opportunities and all that stuff. So I want to just get the real skeletons out of my closet.
I thought you were going to say you flirted with a lot of leftist women.
But... No, they freak me out. They've read too many books.
They terrified me too.
Kept talking about ideology.
Yeah, and I'm like, ID what? And I still don't know what that word means. So,
well, so the important thing to understand about ideology.
This is how ideology functions today. And then I'll tell a dirty joke or something. No, Zizek, I'll be honest, Zizek, in the early days, I was like, I want to figure out what this guy's talking about. And it took me a long time to realize I'm not sure that I know, but I'm not that interested. But he is a Marxist, and I'm into that. But I couldn't say that there was any defining moment. Just that I felt like the market has too much control of our lives, and we're cynical about politics. But like, we should be a lot more connected to politics,
or just realize that everything is politically like effective.
Right. Just the whole notion that if like what like strong libertarians are calling freedom, which like a sort of market-based freedom is
freedom,
then I don't want it. So where is there for people like me that don't want shit like that? You know what I mean? And I found inspiration in Marx, and then I'd always hated right-wing politics, so like I'd always stood on the left more or less, but to get I don't even know if I consider myself far left, because again I'm willing to consider a Keynesian 15-hour work week as a pretty decent society to live in. So Jeremy, I don't have a good answer for your question.
And I think that was a perfect answer.
Yeah, I think that worked just fine.
But I just do think, broadly speaking, as I've already said, like, we are not critical of the marketplace anymore, and I don't know why that is. Like, I don't think the government should have too much power over our lives, the state shouldn't have too much power over our lives, but the market shouldn't either, and we should have that democratic control over both of those entities, and we don't have it. Good day.
Yeah, well, for me, a big part of my journey was I grew up very sympathetic to the idea of just being paranoid and anti-government, and I think I still am to a certain extent, but one of the big critiques that came out of that was things like Adbusters, as goofy as it is, and...
No, it was very influential, and I think for good reason.
Well, I mean, I don't take people seriously who say they read Adbusters who didn't steal it, but... From my end, a big part of the criticism that I found interesting that was coming out was saying, look at the power that these corporations have over our lives. And that's a conversation you can have without going into capitalism.
Right.
But by the same token, it does seem like an obvious step to take. And I am way more afraid of corporations these days than I am of the government, because
Without a doubt.
at this point I don't really see a meaningful difference between the two.
Exactly.
Well, and I think if anything, like in that movie Network, I think it was Ned Beatty's character said, like, don't you get it? It's not nations anymore. It's all corporations. And
Yeah.
it's like,
You get up on your little 21-inch screen and howl about America and democracy. There is no America. There is no democracy. There is only IBM and ITT and AT&T and DuPont, Dow, Union Carbide, and Exxon. Those are the nations of the world today. What do you think the Russians talk about in their councils of state? Karl Marx? They get out their linear programming charts, statistical decision theories, Minimax solutions, and compute the price-cost probabilities of their transactions and investments, just like we do. We no longer live in a world of nations and ideologies, Mr. Beale. The world is a college of corporations, inexorably determined by the immutable bylaws of business. The world is a business, Mr. Beale.
It's no, you're thinking of The Fault in Our Stars.
oh yeah, I love that movie.
Are we in the cyberpunk future
I haven't
where
seen
we
it.
have like corporate city states?
Well, I think that to an extent, yes. I mean, Amazon makes as much money as a nation.
Took
you know
over
what
Seattle.
I mean? And they occupy. They're everywhere. You know what I mean? They're not located geographically, in a meaningful way anywhere. So
Well, and I guess for me at least, one of the reasons why I'm a little bit reluctant when I hear these conversations about Medicare for All is that, we already tried to improve healthcare with Obamacare, and it wound up being a huge handout to these fucking god-awful companies that are squatting over us. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't try to make things better, but what I'm saying is we do need to have a certain awareness of how there is essentially a predatory system that has basically latched onto our system,
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
how we're going to compensate for that. And if you had talked to me 5 years ago, I would have said you can't and don't bother.
right.
And so I think I probably wasn't unique in that, and I think that is one of the things we have to do, which is try to figure out how we're going to convince people, for starters, that there is hope.
Right. I think defeatism has been on the broad left. I mean, liberals and leftists been kind of the order of the day since Reagan, at least.
Absolutely.
Right. I think, well, a lot of, especially, I think I want to say, especially since the election, because I think part of it is, it almost really was as God, I think it was even like an episode of Brooke Gladstone on the media was talking about how effectively reality was shattered, but reality as the mental concept with which we view the world, and the structure of, it's kind of like how the structure of how we think things are and act, and kind of like our concept of reality rather than
The
reality
construct.
itself. Yeah, the construct. Yeah, but I think, but connecting with the kind of like the pessimism, or kind of the most I think because the election, the most recent election, was such a major shock to a lot of really pampered professional media types who are live extremely comfortable lives, and that all of a sudden this massive shock where everybody was the entire it's when as the book of the same title talks about, when prophecy fails, when your entire concept of everything of how you think things should be is proven dramatically wrong. That's at some point because of the people who are a lot of media pundity types, be either op-ed writers or talking heads or whatever, because they've never had to do the organizing work. They've never had they were always fairly comfortable anything that kind of like, so they never had to spar, they never had to organize, they never had to struggle for it, and so they all those muscles were atrophied. So all of a sudden this huge shock comes along and they freak the fuck out, and they start, it's like, everything's over, it's like we need Cal exit, we need to there's like nothing really can be done.
Yeah, we need civil war before we'll do any structural changes within the existing units.
Cascadia!
Yeah.
Represent.
But it's a sense, but there's a lot of like, it's kind of like whenever you see people writing, America is over, and to the point where they even got like SNL of all things, like the weekend after the election had the sketch where like Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock on of like watching, here's an election watch party, and whereas all the Manhattan white folks were freaking out, and Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock were like, well, yep, that's about the size of what we expected.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I seem to recall something that my old Catholic priest once told me, which is that Nietzsche said that God is dead, but now Nietzsche's dead and God's still here. So
dang,
yeah, what's up?
I like
Did he actually say that, or was he wearing that on a T-shirt and that he just pointed at?
That is something that not only did a Catholic priest actually say to me, but he actually said it at a lecture.
That's pretty
and he
great.
presented it as a deity, so it was actually really super cool. I love that
Was there
guy.
applause?
No, but there was a lot of like,
Nietzsche's dead, huh? All right.
Damn,
murked
him.
He is dead. He was talking to a horse before he died.
Yeah,
Found dead in Miami.
But I mean,
I'm a Friedrich Nietzsche fan.
Yeah, the truth is, I'm going to make an absolutely terrible comparison here, and
why stop?
Yeah, I know. I'm going to see how deep I can dig myself. But there's this current storyline running in the Marvel comics right now, where Captain America is turning out to be a Nazi, and I'm head over heels with it.
You like it?
Yeah. Well, and not even because it's particularly well done, but just because it's a really interesting philosophical, allegorical argument, which is, what do you do when you think that the world is one way, when you think that standards and values are a certain way, and they're just completely upended. And I don't think that Trump is Hitler.
Certainly not.
And I think some people are being a little bit hysterical about him, and as much as near as I can tell is that he's just, in a lot of ways, just another shitty Republican.
He's a senile old man.
Well, so this is a big beef for me, where I'm sick of people treating Trump like he's really all that more odious than any other Republican that's been elected to president since Reagan. Is he really?
Alex Perrine, ex-Gawker editor, now I think he's now like a editor and columnist, and now a new podcaster over in Fusion. Now he actually wrote the thing a few weeks ago just called "This Is Normal," because he talked about, hey, let's be real here. McCain would have done a lot of the same exact shit of just relying on the same kind of, McCain would have just hired the same kind of like corporate assholes to handle all the domestic shit while he was obsessed with foreign stuff from the same, like I said, it's not the. That's part of getting back to why some reading is necessary, because you want a little bit of theory, a little bit of analysis, because of so many people who were paid as we were mocking, paid way too much to talk about this shit. Unlike us, we're not paid at all to talk about this shit, so we'll run our goddamn mouths.
I didn't realize we weren't getting paid, Jeremy.
You should have told us before.
We're getting exposure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. See, if you do this for me, your name will get out there, and it'll be a great example. You can point to this, and you can take this work and go take it to others and show here, this is my portfolio.
I'm trying to build my brand.
Yeah,
right now.
this is we do these podcast episodes on spec. But it's kind of a thing where like a lot of people, because they where the shocking bit of the election was because of. Again, like I said, as they say, you have a lot of like media types coming from, who haven't needed to think it through any of the shit through at all, and so all of a sudden, like their political beliefs were pretty much just a set of manners. It's why you had a lot of it's like their problem with Trump wasn't all of the all of like the heinous policy shit, was just because he was so gauche and vulgar, which is why they were like, well, at least we have Jared and Ivanka here who dress like professional Manhattan.
Oh yeah,
don't even get me fucking
Paul Ryan's
started.
Civility. In debate,
and in this thing, it is because like none of these folks have actually had to figure out like what exactly they do stand for, or even like I said, the phrase like non-ideological or post-ideological comes around, which means not even really thinking through like what the hell do you actually believe.
Yeah, it becomes a religion.
Well, for me, the most annoying facet of this for me is this. George W. Bush is. I never thought I'd miss George W. Bush.
God,
like that's cute and funny. Fuck off!
Yeah,
like he was
seriously.
awful.
Yeah.
Like,
do you not remember?
Hundreds of thousands of people were murdered brutally because of that piece of shit. And what? Because he's doing some paintings now. He's a great guy. Eat shit.
I really wanted to like him, but his paintings are actually pretty bad.
Yeah, they're atrocious.
I'm not on board. Like, just.
You should be getting better. Well, it's obvious that he's
the
degenerating.
blending is just so sloppy. I mean, the color selection isn't bad, but
they're actually pretty good.
They're not. They're not. I mean, he's got potential. I'm not gonna lie.
Sure.
But,
I mean, he's just a boy.
Well, someone was talking about how like with each kind of like horrible asshole Republican president who comes in, there's been a cycle for 30 odd years now to always try to rehabilitate the memory of the previous horrible asshole re-elected Republican president, and it happens again and again and again and again.
Well, and it's gotten to the point where even the Democrats are like Reagan, like they love Ronald Reagan.
Oh,
like
yeah.
he wasn't a fucking piece of shit. Like he wouldn't admit that AIDS was real his whole presidency.
Yeah,
I mean. The Cadillac welfare, or what do they call it? I'm sorry.
Welfare Queens.
Welfare Queens,
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
And that was all him.
Say no to drugs.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, just a piece of garbage. Go ahead.
But also, mentally in decline, and thus letting others letting assholes and really horrible people running around, actually run things like certain foreign weapons deals, or not to mention all of like the horrible like hyper moralistic domestic shit.
Right. I wonder if Americans just like senile old people. It's like they're children, so they kind of feel like this sort of like, it's like when you look at a kitten and it has big eyes, and you're just like, oh, it's so cute because it's so stupid.
One of the coolest things about Reagan is that he set up this elaborate deal for arming moderates in Iran, and he had this whole like elaborate chain of things. But the thing is, I read this book by Joseph Epstein that's about the Russia and the CIA and their conflict together, and it turns out that basically the entire time this so-called moderate group was actually being run by Iran with the help of the Russians, and so they were basically just giving Iran a bunch of money while claiming to destabilize the region through funding these moderates. And it was like, but one of the things that came up was that they desperately wanted to believe that they could do something, and that part of espionage is basically handing people an idea that they want, and so they're willing to sell themselves and convince themselves because they want something to be true. And I think that's something that comes up with politicians again and again, where with Obama, we wanted that sale, so we're willing to make a lot of allowances and excuses because, it sounds really good.
Yeah, that's a perfect way of encapsulating
it. It was like autopilot for people politically when Obama was elected, because I think that there was this whole like idea of the grandeur and the wonderfulness of, it's going to make everything better, but in reality we're going to get drone strikes and...
Well, right. He was so charismatic, right? Yeah.
Well, right. I think that was like a result of, again, kind of, I don't know if it was deliberate or how deliberate it was, but it was it's a bunch of different issues that everybody from Adam Curtis on through I think 1,000 other writers have talked about, how the drive for kind of for mass like citizen action, for actually getting out and doing something, rather than it's like civic engagement, or people were so detached that most people think that all they had to do was just maybe vote every 4 years, or like maybe
that's certainly how
somebody.
people act. That the world changes based on who we elect for president,
right? It's
and nothing else,
right? But again, it is a. I think there's a bunch of different reasons, but also connecting up with something you're talking about. But there's a book, I had it out from the library for a while, but I didn't actually read it. I really need to read it, but it's called Legacy of Ashes, which actually gets into the history of the CIA and kind of like how like all the times they fucked up and how they're not actually they weren't, the plenty of times that they weren't actually all that good at what they were doing, as opposed to say like the NKVD or the KGB or something who were run by assholes who were a bit more effective at doing asshole work.
Yeah.
Is that right? I don't know anything about it.
Well, the KGB is astonishingly good at what they...
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, they used to be. I've heard very mixed reviews of them in the last 30 years or so, but they ran an operation back in the... after the First World War, where they spent 10 years basically setting up a resistance movement and operating it. And not only that, when they shut it down, they actually announced that they had done this, basically just in order to humiliate their opponents.
Wow.
It was completely baller.
Yeah. Will you... let's talk about that afterwards.
If you're interested in learning more about that, I would actually recommend Deception by Joseph Epstein.
Okay.
Epstein is actually pretty shit when it comes to actual modern things, but he's interesting because he has a lot of connections within the CIA. So if you want to know like the CIA's position on things and you want to get some interesting history that you wouldn't be able to get anywhere else, he's like a really good source for that kind of material.
Awesome.
All right, cool. Kind of let's take a quick break and we'll be back soon.
No. Let's keep going. Keep it rolling.
No, we're
Do it live.
Do it live.
No, we're gonna take a quick break. We're gonna take a quick break because we need to edit and we need to cut in an edits. So at some point we can
do recommendations.
We're gonna do like recommendations or endorsements. Bwong. All right, so
a rapist's view of the world.
Let's cut that.
Guys, this is fun.
Yeah, thank you.
Having a lot of fun.
I think we need more male frontal nudity in fan art.
People are horny.
Yeah, well,
you guys know this?
What?
Of course.
People are horny.
That's how the internet exists.
Yeah.
No, nobody's horny anymore. They're all thirsty now.
Oh yeah, we're all thirsty.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I'm not on the internet that much, so I don't know what that means. But
and if you're a woman, you're thirsty for daddies.
No, don't say daddies. That's appropriative.
Oh, sorry.
Did you see that?
No.
Oh, that's
wait. Is that somebody's real hot take?
Then? Do you know who Shanley is?
Oh, fucking Shanley.
Shanley was like, listen, daddy is a gay culture thing, and I'm tired of these cishet people stealing it. Y'all need to stop.
Oh my god. How does that person even breathe?
Very angrily. I think it's mostly just like...
I have so many followers, and they're all sucky.
I think it's mostly just like this.
Yeah. Oh, wait, it should be like more like, I have so many followers, and they all suck.
Yeah, I find her... I can't criticize her because she's a woman, but like I find her fascinating.
I guess I can't either. I mean, don't I get a free pass to criticize other women?
No, I think you're good.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, like I can't.
I don't need to check my privilege on that one?
No, because you're coming from a position of equal privilege.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, good. That's what I was thinking.
But like,
it's always weird for me because I always feel like.
Well, I mean, like if to draw like a D&D comparison, like I'm as a POC, I can criticize other POCs, but I can't criticize women.
Okay.
But one of the advantages of being a POC is that as a daily action, I can say the N-word once.
Oh wow.
Yeah, just once, but.
Yeah.
And before you ask, I already said it this morning. So.
Yeah, so you've already used up your tally for the day.
Yeah.
It's like your spells. You like to prepare them in the morning.
Yeah.
God, as a woman.
Yes.
You know.
As a woman, I think. Go on.
I don't know. I just think everything.
Not much, apparently.
No.
That's one of the things about Trump, which is like I think a lot of it is and not just with Trump, but like a lot of the arguments that people make are just obviously posing. Like Milo Yiannopoulos is like, being conservative is a new punk rock. And, like, I guess you're right, since punk rock has been dead for, like, ages and ages, and it's just something that kids put on to look cool, and it's actually completely lame and dumb, sure. But, I mean, I'm imagining, like, woke Trump, where he's like, listen, folks, there are more than two genders, okay? It's obvious. Like...
Guys. Yeah.
Guys.
And... if he had run as a Democrat, like, I'm guessing he could have done most of the same shit.
Mm-hmm.
And you would have had people, going like, look, he's with us, okay?
Yeah.
And he's our voice.
I'm with him.
Yeah.
Well, if he was sufficiently, woke, yeah, woke. There you go. Yeah, it wouldn't have mattered. It wouldn't have mattered.
Right, performatively woke.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, as bad as the whole pussy grabbing thing was, like, I think we had a president who, like,
well, one,
like, banged an intern with a cigar at one point. So,
well, we did only have one, I guess, of those.
I don't wait cigar, like, okay,
that
all right,
that really happened.
That really did happen.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
the more you know.
I don't know.
It was Jimmy Carter.
Jimmy Carter,
Yeah.
right?
So, I mean, that's one of the interesting things, which is, I think, the left has advanced to the point where I kind of hope that Bill Clinton wouldn't be able to get elected today.
I would hope too.
I know. I think that people are wising up, because I know people that thought Bill Clinton was great, and then I've told them, like, he was shit, and they go, oh yeah, he was kind of shit. So
yeah.
I think well, Thomas Frank's book was great for just showing, like, did Bill Clinton do fucking anything?
Yeah, this is Thomas Frank's book, Listen Liberal.
Yeah, Listen Liberal.
Well, I don't as reluctant as I am to borrow something from that particular side of things, that the idea of virtue signaling is, I think, kind of compelling, as much as that a lot of politics is very much performative.
Yeah.
And people like to make these arguments and, make snarky comments and be dismissive about certain things, but when you actually drill down and look at what they actually believe, then, they tend to be at once less interesting and less controversial, because, most people think that, for example, Medicare for all is a good idea if you look at the polling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's, just broadly speaking, I think that's what we should be focusing on. Less on, like, how do we make people Marxists, and more how do we
unite the clans.
Yeah, bridge the gap. Because it's like, look, I get it. Like.
Well, I mean, if you want to talk about activation, I've been extremely impressed by what the Pepes have been up to. I mean, that is to me, an absolutely shocking thing that they have been able to mobilize the youth for conservatism as much as they have. And, part of that is because they've been able to present an extremely convincing argument in terms of, screaming about things like free speech, which I care deeply about.
Sure.
Yeah.
And, a lot of this comes down to sales. And I think that's one of the things where you have to look very closely at stuff like capitalism, because...
Wait, I'm sorry. Would you unpack that a little bit more when you say it comes deeply down to sales?
Persuasion.
Yeah.
Persuasion.
And that's one of the things that capitalism excels at, which is, making you want things and subverting ideas in order to take something that's threatening and reducing it. I mean, you look at commercials where they're like... I remember those Sprite commercials where they were like, Sprite is dumb. Don't drink Sprite.
Yeah. In the 90s, Sprite had a sort of like anti-establishment ad campaign, which is bizarre.
Yeah, like, yo, fuck Sprite, am I right?
It was like, be yourself, choose whatever you want, but really they're saying choose Sprite, which is so bizarre.
Change life.
And that's the crazy thing about capitalism, is any bit of rebellion they can actually encompass. Like that way offbeat Pepsi thing that happened didn't work, but
no, it absolutely worked. What are you talking about?
Did it work?
Oh yeah, sales went way up.
Okay, well then it worked.
Fucking loved it. Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, capitalism is basically Steven Seagal. It just expertly uses all of your moves against you.
Cracks your bones.
Whispers into the mic.
Walks very slowly.
And on that note about Steven Seagal movies, we're going to switch into our one of our few segments on the show of doing endorsements and or recommendations. So, what have you been consuming that you want to share with others?
Anybody ready to go?
No comment.
What?
I've been watching a lot of Game Grumps. Leave me alone.
I'll go. I never go first. So, I've been recommending a lot of stupid shit lately, like guitars that I like. So I'm going to do real recommendations. 2 books that I haven't finished, but I am enjoying enough that I feel confident in recommending them. One is called Age of Anger, A History of the Present by Pankaj Mishra. To sum it up, I would say it's basically about an analysis about the Enlightenment and how it affected society and politics, and how even in the West there were people that were left out due to the Enlightenment, and how that is a he uses that to set the stage for how our current political situation, and it's really interesting. There's some stuff about his writing style that I'm not that crazy about, but idea-wise, it's pretty good. The second book is doesn't really need my pushing because I think a lot of people are talking about it right now. It's called Racecraft. It's by Barbara and Karen. I think Barbara and Karen Fields. It is an analysis of racism in general, but I think American racism in particular, and it presents a really interesting case for how racism works in the United States, and for a way to, I guess, I don't know how to put it, like a way to bridge a gap between leftism and people that are worried that leftism is not sufficiently concerned about racism. Does that make sense? Does that make sense to y'all? Okay.
Right, yeah.
And then finally, I'm going to recommend an old ass movie that everyone's heard of, but maybe not everyone's seen. It's called Badlands. It's Terrence Malick's first film. I got to see it at the Hollywood Theater in 35mm, and I loved it very, very much. So get it on digital video disc or however you like to watch films. It was very good, and that's it.
Nice. So is it, you want to go?
No, that's here.
All right.
Milady.
Tips Fedora.
Notice his shirt.
Exactly. He literally has a cat.
MRI cat.
Yeah. Oh.
I thought that was an owl for a good part of the morning. That's all.
So my recommendations are going to be pretty short and sweet. 2 TV shows. So first one is Glow.
Hello, ladies. I'm Sam Sylvia, and this is Glow.
Sorry, what's Glow?
Gorgeous ladies of wrestling.
Which I tanked through in one day. It's a story about, it's loosely based on the reality that was Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling in the 80s, starring Allison Brie and a few other wonderful ladies. Mark Maron's in it. I've never really listened to his show or like his comedy or anything like that, but he's intensely funny because he just kind of plays a very realistic dude that hates people at life. It's just wonderful.
You don't like wrestling?
Well, I don't really know wrestling.
You don't think wrestling is acting?
It's not, is it? It's more like a sport with costumes. Or, I'm sorry, are you hiring actors to play wrestlers, or are we the wrestlers?
Yes.
Which one?
Do people think you're pretty? Because, like, I'm looking at you, one second I think, fuck yeah, she's hot. And then the next second I'm like, I don't know, is she really? I mean, you just have one of those faces. It kind of changes. Like, hey, I don't know.
What the hell does that mean?
It means I don't know. Ruth. That is not a great name.
And it's just funny because like all of those ladies actually did learn wrestling as part of their, prep for this show. So there's some really great wrestling.
Allison Brie is a wrestler in this show?
Yes. So it's set in the 80s, and it's also kind of going across like the whole stereotypes that were involved in some of the stuff. So you have wrestlers called Welfare Queen, and
oh dang, really?
Yeah, the American one is Liberty Bell, and she's like anyway.
Is that real or is that bit made up?
I think that the show itself back in the 80s, I don't know much about it because I was like just born, but there were,
some of the characters were that broad.
Yeah, sort of like how like Iron Sheik was pretty,
But Welfare Queen was not a real.
I don't know if it was. I don't think they did Welfare Queen, but they did plenty of. I don't know if there's anything. They did some horrible. They probably did some like horrible, like ignorant shit. But I don't know if it was anything that was that arch. But then again, I haven't. I'm trying to remember how. I think I've only seen like a handful of episodes, plus the Netflix documentary that is still out there.
Yeah, I need to watch that
about the
next.
original.
Yeah. Anyway, it's very tongue-in-cheek and very self-aware, so it's not like... Yeah, and the woman that plays Welfare Queen is actually a real-life wrestler, which is even cooler. So yeah, I recommend that. And then the third season of Letterkenny just came out, and I don't know if you've ever heard of that. It's a really, really dumb Canadian comedy. It basically started out with these short video sketches between these two guys about Letterkenny problems. Basically, a small town in Ontario, 5,000 people, and these are their problems. There's only hicks, skids, and hockey players.
A couple hockey players come up the produce stand the other day.
Can't believe your sister's still dating these nutsacks.
Wayne?
How are you now?
Good, and you?
Not so bad.
Hey, Katie.
Go home, Daryl.
Nice onesie. Does it come in men's?
Oh, I think you come in men enough for all of us.
I think you better come in my... you better come...
I think you better come say that to his face, you fucking hicks.
Nice execution.
You're doing terrific.
Hey, I heard about your breakup, buddy.
She was a sweetie for what, 5 years, right?
Oh, you're a high school sweetie, right?
What's it to you?
Heard she cheated on you, buddy.
That's a real kick in the knackers, bro.
Just a real ouchie, bro.
It's too bad she taught you not to fight anymore, buddy.
Because that's a fight on sight for you and her new guy, buddy.
Fourth life for life, bro.
Maybe if you'd ever been in a real fight, you might not be so keen for another.
And so the skids are your typical druggies that are like listening to trance music and dancing in the street. And then like the pseudo goth emo kids. And then you've got hicks, which are just, the farmers.
What'd you say?
You heard me.
Oh, my spitter. Tarps off, boys. You looking for a tilly, buddy? Let's have a Donnybrook.
Pump the brakes. You take your shirt off, but leave your sunglasses on.
What sort of backwards fucking pageantry is that?
You gonna fight with those shades or play PokerStars.com?
Hold my spitter. Dude, I can't hold your spitter. You hold my spitter, just put the spitters down.
Tick-tock. Go time!
Go time! Look at that fucking treasure trail.
What's up with your fucking body hair, Big Shoots? You look like a 12-year-old Dutch girl. Your aesthetician coiffed that for you?
You can kiss my aesthetician. You guys do CrossFit?
You can fuck off.
Cross fart. How many times you pulled your horn today, bud?
What?
Oh, she's bashful.
Well, come on, kitten. I won't tell anyone. Ballpark 6 to 8. You're a fucking animal.
Play a little 5-on-1.
Hit the kitchen. Mix a batch.
Feed the ducks.
Distribute some free literature.
Go time!
Fucking shut him!
Riley, Jonesy, put your fucking shirts on and get out of here.
This isn't over!
Jinx, you owe me a Coke.
I'll never buy you a Coke.
Which are the main characters. And then you've got hockey players who are just completely... the humor is very crude and disgusting, and particularly I just think it's hilarious. So watch it. Or just watch the YouTube cold open for the first season, and you'll like it.
It's a hard life picking stones and pulling teats, but sure as God's got sandals, it beats fighting dudes with treasure trails.
How do you spell that?
Letterkenny, Letterkenny.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Jacob, you want to go?
I guess I'll go ahead and recommend a documentary called 24 Hour Comic, the movie. It's available now on iTunes, and...
I'm Scott McLeod, and I'm a cartoonist and author, best known for my book Understanding Comics. I came up with the 24-hour comic in 1990 as a challenge for my friend Steve Bissett. Let's see if each of us can draw 24 pages in 24 hours.
This is not the way that people ordinarily work.
You're taking something that would typically take a month on average and compressing it into a single day.
For me, it's more about remembering what it takes to be a good storyteller given constraints.
I've heard it's pretty good. I haven't seen it, but I guess I'm supposed to recommend it or whatever, so fine.
Do you know anybody in it?
No.
What is your idea?
It's based on this coffee table book that I did, Boilerplate, from the perspective of his inventor.
It's sort of like a cross between Animal Farm and Walking Dead and Children of the Damned.
Heist at a high school. It's a high school heist.
My boss is in it, so it's pretty cool.
So you do know someone who's in it?
Yeah. I'm just going to go ahead and plug. Well, I mean, do we ever really know anyone? I mean...
Fair enough.
If you think about it.
Yeah, it's impossible to know another person's mind, I guess.
Yeah.
That's true.
Was that the one that was shot in a comic book shop in Portland in 2013, 2014?
Yeah, it was around there, and it's basically about these 8 people who try to make an entire comic book by themselves. They're all working individually, in the space of 24 hours. So that's 24 pages, and usually a cover on top of that.
Oh my god,
that's a lot.
Yeah, it's basically like what if NaNoWriMo was about comics and also one day.
Yeah.
And it's a really like intense experiment to see.
No sleep.
Yeah. Which
could you recommend the thing you just said? Nano what?
NaNoWriMo. It's
Yeah.
November Writing Month.
National Novel Writing Month.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And that.
Would you recommend that?
No.
I mean, do you want to write a novel?
In a month?
No, I'm just asking if you'd recommend it.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't recommend it if you don't want to write a novel. What the fuck are you talking about?
Maybe if you have
That's all.
graphomania or something. But
I think that's you've elaborated enough.
If you want to hate yourself, absolutely.
I think there's.
I've done it.
I think there's.
I don't need any help hating myself.
I think there's really something to be said for trying to do a lot of work very badly, and doing it in a relatively short period of time. Because I think creative people tend to be very precious with their work.
Yeah.
And there's something to be said for just letting something be a failure. And I think experiments like that open up a lot of opportunity for that. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Yeah. But not for me because I always like nail everything on the first try.
Yeah, you get it. You're just one of those.
You're the golden child. It's great.
So yes, David Chelsea, you're the 16-time 24-hour comic artist. Are you the undisputed champion?
As far as I know, I haven't heard of any other claimants to the throne.
It's not hard to predict David's results. He will finish probably in 20 hours.
And I'm going to finish before Chelsea. Show him that.
Jacob likes to play mind games, but I like to think it's all in fun.
I have seen the documentary. It's pretty good.
It's. I'm sure it's fine.
I'm going to watch it.
How do you feel about being in the film?
I think people are going to look at this and they're going to be like, that Jacob guy is an Jacob. Are we allowed to swear to this?
They track time.
I'd like to recommend something I'm not going to watch.
You know, they track time, or I should say, one of the ways that they show time progressing is a shot of a box of donuts slowly disappearing with each shot.
I hope they're good donuts and not.
I think they're voodoo.
No. Pixie sticks.
Whoa.
Fruit Loops.
Shots fired.
Sorry.
Are you talking trash about the voodoo? About the vood?
I'm kind of pro
I'm
donut in
ambivalent.
general, but I'm not really above like a Safeway donut. I think they're perfectly delicious.
Yeah, my fiance brought home 9 maple bars and 3 chocolate sprinkle donuts, all because they were $2.50 for a box.
Which donut would you recommend?
The maple bars, but you have to eat them that day, otherwise the next day.
From Voodoo?
No, from Safeway.
From Safeway, yeah.
Sorry, I had just interjected with
I
my
like
donut review.
Can we do donut talk real quick?
Sure.
I like the buttermilk bars at Heavenly Donuts. They're a Portland chain. If you haven't been in, check it out.
They're up on like what, Lombard? North
They're all
Lombard?
around.
Okay.
There's a handful.
Oh yeah,
of
they
them.
have the little sign with the rainbow on it. It's so cute.
It's a very
love them.
fun sign. And for me, it doesn't get better than the warm Krispy Kreme donut. That's a good fucking donut.
Mm-hmm.
Where else are you gonna get that?
Seriously, just right off.
Case closed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm also reading a comic book right now that I'm really excited about, written by Jonathan Hickman and drawn by Tom Coker, and it's called The Black Monday Murders. And it's set in a world much like our own, where there is a murder that happens on Wall Street, which basically opens up this investigation, and it turns out that there is essentially a secret cabal of people who run the world, and they do it through finance. And the premise of this comic is that every time there's a major market correction, it's actually a real magical ritual, and it is a sacrifice to the actual existing physical god Mammon.
Oh my god,
that sounds good as hell.
It is
Metal.
so fucking good. And Hickman is a fantastic writer, and it's very dense. There's a lot of like back notes and errata, and there's a huge list of cast characters and everything. The art is just absolutely stunning, and it's my favorite comic in a long time.
Dang,
That's
that sounds
great.
Who's putting that out?
really
Is that
cool.
out by Image or?
Yeah, it's being printed by Image, and I gotta say, Biff Bam Pow comics have really grown up.
Yeah.
Awesome. My recommendation is a new album by an Atlanta band called Algiers. The name of the album is The Underside of Power, put out by Matador Records.
Broken shards on every heart sometimes. Scatter around what you try to control your life. It's not a matter of faith, it's just a question of time when we all fall down. It's not a matter of fate, it's just a question of time when we all fall down.
It is a mix of a lot of things. It's kind of like the band itself does a lot of like kind of like dark post-punky things. Franklin, the lead singer, however, sings in this great like 1960s soul style. But there's also a mix of like they use a lot. They'll use a lot of like they'll sample. I mean, the very first track on the album is called "Walk Like a Panther," and it opens with a modulated sample of like Fred Hampton, and it is. Yeah, it's incredible. They synthesize like 8 or 9 different kinds of musical threads together, from like post-punk to their bits of like John Carpenter horror soundtracks to kind of like atonal soundscapes to like I said, soul music to like at some like this. But half of it is there's this just excellent like drum machine that's like straight out of like Suicide or Big Black or something. And it's. It's compelling as hell. They played in Portland on Bastille Day, and to a very small crowd at Mississippi Studios, and it was a fun show. So yeah, that's Algiers. The album is The Underside of Power, out on Matador. All right, and that concludes that. Did you have anything else, sir?
Check out this new app I got. I want to recommend this app, Hip Hop Air Horn, I found. I was using this all day yesterday, and it was extremely good.
Okay, I'm immediately downloading
that. Was pretty great.
Hell yeah.
Jeremy, did that band Algiers, did they play the song Bastille Day by Rush?
No, they did not. Although whatever, if their interpretation of that would have been interesting. Oh dear.
Yeah.
And they're marching to Bastille Day.
Oh, I love it so much. I'm sorry for ruining your show, dude. Like, my bad.
No, I think you made it better.
Just took it to a new level, my man.
No. This does not look like the look of someone who's like, I did it. We found our drummer with the Beatles now.
I'll happily be Ringo.
That old drummer, he wasn't too good. I can't do Liverpool. It winds up being like half Scottish or just some mesh of like North.
Hatred, don't make it bad.
The Paul of the Beatles.
Take a sad song and make it.
Oh God!
Pretty good.
Long way to go for Joe.
I'll stop.
All right. And on that note, that flat note, is there anything you would like to? I should say anything you would like to. Is anything you'd like to say in conclusion, as well as if you want people, if you have anything to upcoming to promote or something, or how can folks get a hold of you on the internet? The very concluding wrap up segment of any modern podcast.
Sure. You can follow me at Brandon Wardell.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sausage King of Chicago.
Sure.
I am at Comrade Garrett on what's that called? Twitter? Twatter. I'm on that, and no one follows me, so you don't have to either. Because I don't really post that much.
Yep. You Twatter or Tutor, I think one of the two.
Stop posting.
I'm in a band called Honky Tonk Union. I'm in a couple, but I'm going to talk about Honky Tonk Union because we have a new extended play release. You can get it honkytonkunion.bandcamp.com. And it's classic country music. Most of it is originally written, but we do a couple covers on this. If you like that sort of shit, check it out and give us $5 for the whole damn thing. Otherwise, you can catch me at Acoustic Guitar Forum. Just kidding, I don't even post there.
Specialguitars.com.
Yeah.
I'm Ashes for Foxes on Twitter and Tumblr, and Cyborg Harpy on Tumblr as well.
Is one of them like your personal one, and the other one's like your political one, where you get like really rude and you're like, "Not my president."
Yeah,
that's
actually
correct.
One is my aesthetic blog, and my other one is my angry bitch blog.
Gotcha.
Slay Queen.
Yes, one for memes, one for makeup tips,
Yeah.
one for food snaps
This is
of
accurate.
brunch joints. All right, and once again, I'd like to thank the Mysterious Breakfast Cerealer for our theme. You can get a hold of us. We are at facebook.com/givingthemic. Email us at givingthemic@gmail.com. And Twitter is, Giving the Mic, one word. Yeah, that's it. All right. Any final words? Go.
I didn't think Algiers was all that good. I really prefer Poppy. She's a YouTube personality. You guys should check her out. She's really good.
I have nothing else to say.
Anything else?
I was gonna say
I'm going to
exactly
recommend
that.
looking up dating simulators with pigeons as boyfriends. That's what
All right. That's it. Good night, ladies and gentlemen.
Hi-oh!
Air horn.
Shit. Hold on. I got it. I'm sorry.
No, it's
I didn't do that on purpose. That was an accident.
I thought that was pretty fun.
All right. Well, thank you,
Thank
ladies
you,
and
guys.
gentlemen.
We were talking about humor, and I was like, I'm really getting into Brandon Wardell. I'm really enjoying Brandon Wardell just in terms of humor. And she's like, oh, I don't know who that is. And I was like, well, he's very much online on Twitter. And has ironic dance parties and stuff. And she looks him up. And so she looks him up on the phone. She's like, okay, here we go.
She finds what the sheriff emoji.
the sheriff.
And so she just reads, like,
I'm the sheriff of sucking you
son
off.
of O'Shea, like, I'm the mayor of sucking off. I'm here to suck you off.
See, I didn't know.
She kind of looks at me, and I'm like, that's fucking hysterical.
That's very funny.
Yeah.
Smithers, you're real good at turning me on.
And so she's like, I don't think that's funny. I was like, well, it's humorous subtraction. But then it fucking blows up over the weekend, and I said, I was like, I fucking told you so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude.
You know what you're talking about.
The mayor of sucking you off.
What stupid brand picked that up and decided to reblog it?
Twitter?
No, Twitter, but there was other companies that were doing it,
I
fucking
think
Burger King and shit.
Everybody with a social media intern who's has just paid to sit there and type shit and do whatever.
If they're paid,
Yeah, like
right?
the Sonic one was like, I'm the sheriff of going fast, and I'm here to go really fast and collect all the rings.
Oh God.
To be fair, if the Sonic Twitter account did something, it would actually probably be funny. So
I didn't realize that there was a Sonic Twitter account. But I
it's
bet
super active.
I bet they have. I wonder if they have all those fans that really got into making Sonic versions of themselves.
Well, there's a whole game for that now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like Sonic Forces or Sonic Infinite or.
You can make your own furry, basically.
So you play as OG Sonic and then modern Sonic, and you can create your own furry.
Oh, that's
I didn't know
wonderful.
there were two different Sonics.
Well, they're from different universes.
Sure.
It's like pre-crisis and post-crisis Superman.
Okay. I don't know what that is either, but
Did
all
the
right.
timelines
This
get crossed?
is going to be a long conversation.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, DC Comics
You don't have
came
to
up with
explain
something
it.
that was called. Well, I have to. No.
No, we have to explain it to you, Garrett,
Yeah.
because you have no interest whatsoever in it.
So
But we have to.
DC Comics introduced something in the Flash, which was the concept of the multiverse. So
Mhm.
basically, he found out that the comics he had read as a kid, which were about the Flash named Jay Garrick, were actually taking place in another universe, which was called Earth 2. And so this turned into this whole massive expanse where there was an alternate universe Justice League, and there was another Earth where everybody was evil, and so on and so forth. And they just kept adding more and more universes, and they had different comics set in different universes, and it got more and more complicated until they finally decided readers can't keep up with this.
Just implode it.
Yeah, and they had a special 12-issue miniseries where the universes collapsed into a single universe, and that was called Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yeah.
And they basically reset the storylines, and everything's been super confusing ever since.
Yeah.
Marvel's been doing the same shit,
It didn't
too.
get less confusing?
No.
Well, it was supposed to. That was the point.
Right.
But they reset
I get
some
that.
superheroes, and they didn't reset others. So, they started at,
that is
year
very
one.
confusing.
Yeah. And basically, every 4 or 5 years, they have another event where they try to fix the continuity.
Yeah, it's
impossible.
What is it? What's the thing? Yeah, DC is a great example of, as opposed to history, the view of history as just progression, history
This is
as
another
dialectical
example.
materialism. Because every time they try to do a reset, they always fuck it up, and then have to reset again based on what the previous fucked up thing
Right.
has gone again, and it was the New 52 for a while, and then it was not New 52 for a while, then it became
Retcons all the way down.
it was Crisis, it was 0 Hour, it was Infinite Crisis, Final Crisis, Flashpoint, and the latest one is Rebirth.
Okay.
And I think I'm missing one in there, but so each of these are these big company-wide events.
They're iterations,
Yeah.
trying to fix a problem. This sounds like another good thing about capitalism, where you have to keep producing content.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Right.
And there's no way it's going to
There is no end.
get ridiculous over a period of time.
Yeah, well, and it's an excuse to sort of bang all the toys together, and
Yeah.
But they wrestle over these like really bizarre and pathetic issues, like, did Batman know who shot his parents, or didn't he?
And who was it that shot his parents?
Yeah,
was it
like-
Joe Chill or was it?
Was it Jack Napier?
Yeah.
Lee Harvey Oswald.
Tim Burton joke. I'm really loud in my own headphones. Do I sound louder than everybody else?
I don't think so.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think you sound louder.
Okay, I can't tell.
I did notice there still might be a little too much high end in his.
Okay.
Yeah, just full bass, full compression, all the way down. Just crush it.
There was just some sibilance in there that seemed a little.
You are unfortunately you're on the mic. I only have two compression channels.
Give me another one.
Give him both.
I want
Give 'em
all
both.
the compression.
No,
Sold.
I can't.
He's the guest.
I don't know what compression is, but I want it.
No, it's it's what I have to run it through. On
I
the
want to sound like
computer.
a robot.
Put chorus on him.
No, if you
Echo,
want
echo.
Stereo flange. Hall reverb.
What if
It's like we're in a giant room.
Slim Shady really was at Burger King spinning in your onion rings?
Bam.
Think about it.
Bam. Meme.
Think about it.
Think about it.
Won't you?
Oh man, I should do
Won't
that
you?
with the.
Yeah,
I
here
should do
we
that with the
go.
Velociraptor. That's like thoughtful.
Yeah,
Like, that
Oh
would-
yeah. Thinking Raptor.
See, now this sounds like.
Beer beat.
I was dancing when I was 12. Sounds like T-Rex.
Yeah.
I was dancing when I was 12.
Let's try this. Try it again.
I was dancing when I was held.
Nice.
That's not a real song.
I danced myself right out the womb. Oh, I don't like that. That's more like Planet Rock, like Africa Bombata right there. Oh, sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
Oh, this is bad.
How do they signal Batman in the daytime?
This is
Come on, he's of the night.
This is radio voice.
That's great. I love it.
So it's pretty much just talking into a. And I think there's anything else. Is there anything else really good?
My favorite is that seal that has like the.
Oh, yeah, this sort of sheepish face on.
Mm-hmm. We are now going into the future.
Hot chance of this highway never fucking ends. An American nightmare running scared. Oh, that's right. I'm not even on. I'm barely even on the. There we go. I gotta feed it up.
I'm on Rasta. That's all I can do as a.
Pass the Dutchie, man.
This is what we do a lot.
I'm getting that. Yeah.
This is the whole show.
You just like, be in 7.
Yeah, the smaller, the previous version of my mixer was just sitting over there. It actually had a ring mod built into the built-in effects, which means you could do Dalek voice real easy and cut a lot of fun.
I feel like that's a real, perhaps, overcommitment to the bit. I know that's your like.
Well, no, that's just my handle,
or whatever.
But it's just kind of a thing of just being able to yell like spaminate into mic it can be fun depending on how you do it.
I should probably just say this right now. I think Doctor Who is stupid.
I've never really watched it.
I'm not a fan anymore.
And I think anybody who likes Doctor Who is stupid. So.
I will say this: I have not. I think I've seen one Christmas episode in the last 5 years.
Well, I will say I am in support of it now because the new Doctor Who is a lady doctor. What?
Is there going to be a lady doctor?
Hashtag lady doctor. Hashtag slay queen.
Oh my god! Yeah.
Hashtag women get it done.
The lead, the women lead from Attack the Block is who's later joined Broadchurch and is now the Doctor.
Yeah.
Kristen Shaw.
Yes. And the Doctor, the hot lady. All right. All right. It's about the.
Why can't Lady Doctor be fat though? What the fuck?
Seriously.
I'm starting a campaign.
Oh, which person from Broadchurch was she?
I think she's the
David
lead.
Tennant.
David Tennant.
Not
Okay.
not Katie. No. What's her name? Something with a double. I can't remember her name. I just remember she's the female lead in Attack the Block, and she's in Broadchurch because the guy who wrote Broadchurch, starring a former doctor, is now is taking over for Moffat. So, all right. Anybody need to use the head really quick, and then we'll go. All right, let's.
That beer went over really quick.
Jodie Whittaker.
Jodie Whittaker, yeah. With like, I think with like 2 T's or something.
So they're finally gonna have a lady doctor, huh?
A lady doctor.
One or in a canon one that was Happy Cat.
I'm really excited to see what Sargon of Akkad has to say.
The one of the posts was I think a response of like angry Dalek voice. This seems like gender.
Pretty much.
Dude.
All right, are you doing a bit? I don't. What's going on?
Just saying I'm having
No,
fun.
Oh, okay.
we're actually trying to be genuine here.
No.
No, but I am.
I don't. What is this?
I am saying
is this some kind of drink? What are you talking about?
I ran out of irony for the day.
Only works online, not so much in real life.
I'm fucked.
Well, I'm bad at irony.
I don't
already
know.
said it.
Well, I don't know how to stop.
Well, you can keep going. It's
All
all
right.
right.
Thank God.
We want you to be yourself.
I basically sort of flip between like maximum irony and like, did you know?
That's good. I
Yeah.
feel like I've gotten a beat on it.
Would you like to know more? Click here.
Yeah.
Oh, LiveJournal. How I don't miss you.
That article is a fucking classic.
I have not seen it before, so thank you. You've given me a
It's
gift.
so good.
The Joss Whedon one?
Yeah.
That was pretty hilarious.
Well, it's like the Tumblr discourse, but it's like, LiveJournal predated Tumblr, and
Yeah.
then when LiveJournal got taken over by Russians, then they decided,
Is that when it became all pornography?
No, they just
'Cause I remember there was a website I would go to that was just random images from
Tumblr's a lot
LiveJournal.
of-
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-mm.
So it would be just take
Like a
the
dot
last
text
10 things or last 30 things posted
Yeah.
to LiveJournal.
And it was all
And it was
fun.
always a lot of fun, but then there got to be a point where it was just every third thing was
Yeah.
just pornography.
80%. Tumblr's
Which I'm
80%
fine with,
porn
but
and
it's like-
20% discourse. So, yeah.
Speaking of Tumblr, I'm still trying to learn how to make art good, and I'm getting better.
It's
I'm
a good
making
place to put art.
what?
It's a good place to put art.
Yeah, and so one of the artists who I actually quite like because she does really good tutorials is a girl named Sakimi-chan.
Sakimi-chan?
Yeah, and she does a lot of fan art. So here, see.
Oh, that's really
It's
nice.
like super colorful, glossy, like sort of heavy
It
manga.
looks good. Is
That's
that
great.
is that a character that
Yeah, that's
people know?
Starfire from the Teen Titans.
Okay.
DC.
And I actually don't even know who this one. Let's see. Oh, here we go. I love this one. This one's great. Nice,
I'm gonna look up
Oh, it's
Sakimi.
nice
Bowie.
anatomy. So
Oh.
you know what?
It's like Inuyasha, right?
If you say so.
I don't
I don't read hentai.
Fox
I don't read hentai or whatever it's called. But
Tailed Fox?
so the thing about
I keep
Sakimi-chan.
knocking your thing, and I'm so sorry,
it's okay.
Natasha.
The thing about Sakimi-chan though is everybody's like, "Ooh, wow, Chapo Trap House is making 69,000, a month on Patreon."
She have a Patreon?
Well, she has a Patreon, and the last time I saw her is that she, on her own, back in 2015, cleared $500,000.
Oh, I bet.
So I'm like,
How much?
$500,000.
Fuck me.
Yeah. Well, her secret is that basically she does 2 versions of all of her art.
Oh,
she does
cool.
one nude and one non-nude.
Oh.
And
And then they
people-
have the Patreon account for the news.
So, like on this version, like she'll
totally a team.
she'll do another one where that isn't there.
Yeah,
So How
What's your name?
How does phone work, Jacob?
Twitter.
Oh, Jacob Mercy.
Oh.
I honest to God don't know how to add people on Twitter.
That's okay. I'm going to add you.
This
and
is
then you can be
embarrassing. Oh my God.
Who is this
No,
person?
you just go to you hit the little magnifying glass.
Oh shit. Okay, well, profile, list, moments, highlights, Twitter ad settings, and privacy.
Oh my god, this is great.
What
Your
the
feed.
fuck? What's so great about my feed?
The sperm whale and the colossal squid have never been close friends, but when the London Review of Books published the squid's vitriolic critique of the whale's second volume of poetry, the two became mortal enemies.
That's Tom Gauld's
Yep.
stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm a big fan. Okay, so
Cyborg Harpy just liked you.
yeah. Oh man, I hope she sends me pictures of feet.
Bird feet.
Nice. That's the best kind of feet.
Mm-hmm. Talons.
All right, so share. Do I want to DM? Do I want to slide into those DMs?
Slide into those DMs.
No, I think I'll just tweet it.
Yeah, tweet me.
Tweet. Okay, now I got an @ I guess. I'm not very good at Twitter.
No, I'm not either.
Okay. Ash.
I just know how to retweet.
It's Ash's, right?
Mm-hmm. For.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
I can't
get out of bed unless I'm drinking.
I love Will. Just like fucking laconic his responses on Twitter are sometimes.
Will Menaker?
Yeah, like somebody wrote a tweet, an article for The Independent that said, "Young people like me who question socialism are being silenced." To which Menaker responds, "Good."
You're right, though. He is pretty good about it. He had one the other day that really cracked me up, and I wish I could remember what it was.
He has a lot. Yeah, he has a. He's almost Spartan in that regard. He's just like, you know,
he's pretty reserved, right? Yeah.
Well, no, just like then we'll fight in the shade, bitch.
I'm guessing that's a 300 reference.
Yes,
I've never seen that movie.
Well, it's actually no, it's a reference to actual history.
They fought in the shade.
That's a like the Spartans were noted for their like minimalist smartassery, like and. A lot of the best lines of 300 are directly pulled.
Oh, they were good at jokes?
Yeah, they were good at being badasses.
I've heard that.
Like the line, I don't know if you've ever seen an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, where he's like, you know, when I said I'd kill you last,
Yeah,
I lied. That's actually
Commando.
Yeah, Leonidas said that first.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sparta?
Yeah.
Leonidas?
I took a class on Stoicism last year, and
No, you didn't.
I sure did.
Oh, okay.
I wrote a whole paper.
I was just testing you.
Yeah. Well, good test.
You passed. You solved my question riddle.
And I read a book about how there's this guy that theorized that the Stoics were trying to set up their political ideology was one of new Spartanism, but I was not convinced by it. That's not a very interesting story, but I told it anyway.
No, that's pretty interesting. So they're trying to start.
I can loan you the book if you want.
No, thank you.
No, wait, I can give you the title. I don't own the book.
I'm kind of busy right now. I've got comic books to read.
Okay.
So
Oh man, George Romero just died.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah,
God.
died at the age of 77.
No.
Him and Elie Wiesel.
Well, he'll be back.
Nailed it. Man, this guy's good, Jeremy.
All right, I'm gonna go. I think I've done my duty for today.
No, I'm gonna go. I'm no good to this show
Seriously,
anymore.
take over.
In fact, we should all go and just let him do the podcast from now on.
And I've tried that; it doesn't work. I need something to bounce off of. It's
I like talking into a mic alone. You know.
Yeah.
Feels good.
How do you feel about being in the film?
I think people are going to look at this and they're going to be like, that Jacob guy is an Jacob. Are we allowed to swear this?